Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news. The simplest things can occasionally result in the loudest explosions in the quiet corners of a world that lives on noise, a world of confrontations, admissions, and meticulously planned pandemonium. Take a peek. A murmur. One picture. And for Gino Palazzolo, it all began with a single image. We first encountered him on TLC's 90 Day Fiancé, the Colosseum of the digital age, where the most delicate moments of human intimacy are encased in bright lights, camera lenses, and millions of viewers' judgments. Gino was a different kind of reality star. He didn't deliberately seek out drama. He was ungainly, hesitant, in a way that was both charming and painful to observe, earnest. Then Jasmine arrived. Viewers were unable to turn away from Jasmine Pineda's reckless passion as she rushed into Gino's life. She was a force of nature, a tempest in human form. She was vivacious, fervent, envious, and explosive. Even while their connection was obviously electric, it frequently felt like two different frequencies fighting for harmony. They were deeply in love, put up a stronger fight, reconciled in murmurs, then exploded in yells once more. A connection forged in fire and fraying thread, fueled as much by desperation as affection, they became one of the most talked-about couples in 90 Day Fiancé history. However, what television initially emphasized was undermined with time, as is typically the case. Their quiets lengthened. They stopped posting. And finally, without any justification or clarification, Gino and Jasmine's romance just vanished. No dramatic breakup post was made. No all-out interview. Just a lengthy, eerie silence. So far, an obscure Instagram story posted by a local Detroit food blogger who had no idea what they were photographing when they moved their camera across the candlelit interior of a fancy downtown eatery, started it all as a whisper on the internet. Gino Palazzolo sat in the background, nearly out of view. He was revealed by the headgear. A woman who was unknown to the public, elegant and poised, leaned forward across from him. Her wine glass's reflection captured her giggle. Even in the grainy clip, there was a subtle glitter in her eyes. Secure. No hugs were given. No kisses. Nothing obvious. Nevertheless, a much stronger force, peace, charged the air around them. The world took note. The internet was in a frenzy by dawn. Speculation blazed through subreddits. Groups on Facebook devoted to 90 Day sleuthing generated hundreds of comments. TikTok investigators compared timestamps, matched restaurant menus, and focused on reflections in water glasses. However, there was a far more shocking discovery that went beyond the woman's identify, whose name is still unknown. Gino was no longer there. Silently. In private. Without fanfare or controversy. Additionally, people felt uneasy because there was no drama. Because Gino had come to represent emotional turmoil for a large number of viewers. With the heat of Jasmine. With disputes late into the night, sobbing car journeys, and the heavy, despairing sighs of a guy who wasn't sure if he was being loved or destroyed. However, this was a different Gino. He wasn't trying to decipher outbursts or avoid accusations. He wasn't struggling to explain himself or holding on to ephemeral moments of joy. He was at ease, calmed. There. We had seen him in survival mode for so long. We were now seeing a completely other phenomenon, rebirth. Questions continued to hum beneath the surface. The woman on the other side of the table. Who was she? Was this a severe situation? Was it brand new? Was Jasmine aware? Gino didn't have the answers. He didn't post an explanation. No pictures of their meal. No tag. There was only one picture on his Instagram feed. A silent picture of a steak on a plate next to a red wine glass. The caption? Delicious meal. Nice company. That's all. And really, that was all that was required. Because Jasmine Pineda was watching from 2,500 miles away. And the quiet was more painful to her than the noise. She didn't post an angry message. She didn't go live to make charges or call for allegiance. Rather, she took a much more destructive action. A dark screen was posted by her. No picture. Nothing to say. Only one white letter line in the middle. Whoa! 3 letters. Infinite implications. Once pleading with Jasmine to overcome her envy, the fans now pleaded with her to express her true feelings. Jasmine, however, remained silent. And for some reason, the quiet that occurred in between those posts, Gino's satisfaction, Jasmine's shocked response, became the most boisterous discussion of all. Because in actuality, Gino had finally managed to escape the pull of Jasmine's orbit. Once the show's star, she was left hanging as she watched him leave in peaceful fulfillment rather than rage or retaliation. And that might have been the most agonizing aspect. Jasmine had been making the most intense demands for love for years. She had doubted, screamed, accused, and pleaded. Gino had repeatedly been pushed to prove himself, and he did so, even at the expense of his honor. Now, however, she was seeing something she could not reverse, a different Gino that was not focused on her. The fandom was also divided. Some applauded Gino, referred to this meal as the soft revenge, complimented his recovery, and hailed the unidentified woman as a savior. Others lamented what had been, the unvarnished, unadulterated bond that, despite its poison, had once seemed more genuine than anything else on TV. However, there was no denying that a new chapter had begun, with a clink of glasses rather than a crash. Once broken, a man had found his peace. And this supper was definitely transforming, regardless of whether it was the beginning of something serious or just a time for introspection. Because sometimes the strongest statements can be made without using words. Sometimes the most profound mending occurs during a quiet meal with someone who listens, who laughs, and who doesn't require you to change in order to be loved, rather than during dramatic departures or emotional farewells. And that might have been the true miracle for Gino Palazzolo, who had spent years trying to be enough for someone else, being enough just the way he is. Not for TV, for fans only, but for himself. Furthermore, Gino remained silent as the night wore on and the internet raged. He didn't elaborate. He offered no explanation. He just lived. And often the quietest lives speak loudest truths in a world that is based on spectacle. Because what's left after the narratives fall apart, the hashtags fade, and the cameras stop rolling? Maybe this is what Gino Palazzolo is thinking of, a two-person table, a peaceful meal together, and the gradual, exquisite development of a life that was ultimately his own. This gossip is over. If you liked the video, then give your opinion in the comment box and stay with us by subscribing the channel. Thank you.